You remind yourself of your shortcomings, your autistic tendencies, why you're so retarded. You remind yourself how ugly you are, how people are the same age as you but they have everything where you have fuck all. You're pissed off with your low self-esteem, your lack of self-worth. You wonder where that even fucking comes from. Why are you genetically disposed to this phenomenon that limits you and restricts your life in so many ways? That stops you from making wonderful relationships, that makes you feel terrible about yourself, makes you feel miserable, has you stuck in the same place for so long and throws away all your opportunity. And then you want to cope with this, you want to heal it, you want to deal with it, you want to tackle your traumas and attack. Why do you have this low self-esteem, this low self-worth? Where does this come from? Is this simply genetic disposition, or did I fabricate this myself? Or was this a direct effect on my traumas, how I was brought up, what I experienced, the people I met? Was this the way I chose to cope with life? I've read a lot of self-help books which tell me that the way to deal with this is to look into my childhood trauma. Address the inner child, right? You've heard this before. We look at what gave us all these fears, what made us hate ourselves, what made us start disliking ourselves. Why we lack so much confidence. Was it because of something someone said? Was it because of how we were raised? Was it because of some traumatic incident that taught you that it's not okay to be yourself, or taught you that being yourself will get you hurt? And somehow revising all our shortcomings and our limitations to ourselves on a daily basis is how we have chosen to deal with that. Alfred Adler is an ancient psychologist, not really ancient, but he suggests the concept of teleology, which means that your current actions, how you think, your tendencies are developed by the goals and purposes you have right now, rather than the conventional reasonings and the study of cause and effect, that we are this way because of our past. And sure, one can argue that our current goals and purposes are motivated and a result of our past experiences and knowledge. Based on teleology, we can argue that we fabricate our shortcomings. We yap all day about how useless we are, how worthless we are, because we lack courage. We fear rejection. We fear being negated. We fear being snubbed. We lack the courage to take deliberate and realistic efforts in order to head towards what we think we want, what we wish for, simply because it's safer, it's more comfortable to use our trauma as an excuse, our fears as an excuse, to not open ourselves up to interpersonal relationships. We think our current goal is genuine relationships, but really it's more like staying comfortable, doing what's easy. We don't want it bad enough. We prefer the comfort and the safety in never getting hurt in relationships, and we'd rather stay in that comfortable space despite our complaints and limitations because it is easier, instead of being treated despairingly, being rejected, being refused, sustaining deep mental wounds. It would be better for you to just never have any relations with anyone in the first place. Your goal is to not get hurt in the relationships you have with people, and to achieve that goal, you come up with all these shortcomings. You remind yourself every day of how worthless you are. You give yourself unlimited reasons to start disliking yourself, because if you could shut yourself away that way, you won't have to interact with anyone, and you'll always have a justification ready for any rejection you might receive. You can always blame it on your shortcomings and your self-esteem. You're giving yourself insurance so that you don't have to confront your fears, so that you don't have to come to terms with the fact that you don't want to have those wonderful relationships bad enough whereby it triumphs over your fear of realistic efforts to build confidence and get where you want to be. It's because of your shortcomings that you are treated disrespectfully, and if things weren't this way, you too could be loved. To you, not liking yourself is a virtue. It's beneficial. And sure, we can go back and look at all the reasons that could have caused this. Something that developed such a great fear within you. Some terrible event that completely shattered your self-confidence. How you were raised wrongly and your parents made the wrong decisions. We can look at all of that. But at the end of the day, I say this with compassion. It doesn't matter. And perhaps we should just deny trauma entirely, because who the fuck cares, right? It's not our fault, but it is our responsibility. Maybe we use this concept of traumatic cause and effect as an excuse to not face our fears, to hide from the difficulty of realistic efforts. Perhaps we have to come to terms that we are choosing to rest in this justification, and then we can challenge that and remind ourselves that what we wish for is something we want more than the comfort of not making those realistic efforts to get there. In order to find the genuine relationships you seek, you must think it is absolutely worth it to face your fears. You're going to challenge your dependency on your low self-esteem and start opening up. Stop speaking to people, putting yourself in more social events, participating in more things. You already know what to do. You already know the realistic efforts you need to take. It's all a matter of courage, and you have to want it bad enough to build that courage. And sure, your situation could be much more difficult than the average person's. You could be surrounded by assholes, radical retards, violent people, and that would decide the scale of your fears. I'm not saying that it will be easy, but it will be your own situation to confront and your own responsibility to free yourself. It is impossible to not get hurt in your relations with other people. And you're gonna hurt other people too. If other people didn't exist, you wouldn't have this problem. But relationships are so beautiful and wonderful. They're worth every price to pay. So let's put in some realistic effort. You're gonna deliberately challenge yourself step by step. Do what you can today and up it tomorrow. Ask questions, greet people, give yourself more opportunity. You know what to do, you know the gist. Meditate to deal with your overthinking and stop yourself from revising your shortcomings so you can use it as a tendency to deal with your fears. Yeah, it's gay, but it's realistic effort. You can hop on the app Medito and do like a 3-minute session. You can do a 5-second session right now, and then you can do 6 seconds tomorrow. And people are so afraid of making these small steps of progress because they find it pathetic. What if somebody else calls them out for being so pathetic and having to be so forgiving with themselves that they have to increase it by 1 second daily like an absolute autist? You don't have to care about that. There's this analogy, the more get more and the less get less. As you make progress, as you go down, it is both exponential. It will look like this anyway. It would go a bit and then boom. So if you make steps in the right direction, if you increase it by a second every day, your capacity is going to increase. Your productive momentum is going to go up. Your willingness to continue self-investing is going to go up. And before you know it, you're making 10-second jumps. You're making 1-minute jumps. 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 7 seconds. And then the next day you do 10 seconds. And then the next day you do 15 seconds. And then the next day you do 30 seconds. And then the next day you do 2 minutes. And then the next day you do 5 minutes. And before you know it, 20 minutes is basically where you get the most fucking benefits from meditation anyway. Like, who cares after that, honestly? How do you feel when you failed to face your fears? Are you putting in more effort than yesterday? Are you holding on to your low self-worth to give yourself an excuse? Do you constantly self-sabotage so that you have a justification for your mistakes? I'm a chronic thinker and I have way too much imposter syndrome to tell you what to do or to enforce a solution onto you like it's the one answer in the entire world. I'm not radical and retarded like that, but I think we can all agree that relationships are beautiful and absolutely wonderful. And we can all agree, despite however much cynicism we want to hold on to, we fantasize about wonderful relationships, ideal relationships, genuine relationships. We want it so bad. We want a story, we want a community of wonderful people, we want a group of friends that genuinely care for us and we do the same for them. So we definitely do wish for it. Now we just have to allow that wish, that desire to overcome our lack of courage. We have to persuade ourselves that we want it so bad that it's worth the realistic efforts it takes to get there. It's worth putting ourselves out there. It's worth the risks. It's worth being rejected. It's worth being refused, made to look like a retard, being made fun of. Is it worth it to us? Is it really worth it to us? How bad do we want it? I hope we both find the people that genuinely care for us and we experience that raw, wonderful love from other people, and we stop wasting our mental capacity telling ourselves how worthless we are and use that to serve other people and give them love. I love you. Good luck. It's a better world.
Oh my god. Whoa. Who is that? Are you there?